Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas expressed by the guest, myself, or commenters may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It is the state of giving or receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to more complex form. So what is Enlightenment evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to more complex human being living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is simulcast live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific from the Enlightenment Evolution Hour page, Matrix Minds Facebook page, and the ET Whisper YouTube channel. It is also redistributed from the Forbidden Knowledge News Network and Conscious Awakening Network. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer, and I want to welcome all of you guys today. Hello, I see you in the chat. I see you out there in the world. Hello guys, welcome. We have an amazing guest today. Glenn Mate will be with us here in just a few minutes. But as you guys know, to some of your delight and others' dismay, we do have announcements, and those announcements are important as a part of the show. So we will get down to it. For the actual network announcements themselves, it's the same one as every week. There is another show on our network at this moment. It is called Out There Talk with Valiant himself. And if you go to Instagram on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 11:59 Eastern, you can go to Out There Talk, the @ sign, and then Out There Talk, all one word, and you will find the episode. It's 1 hour long, twice a week. Amazing dude. He was the head singer for the heavy metal band Valiant Thor, which for any of you who played video games in the early 2000s, Guitar Hero 2, Pangea was Valiant Thor, the heavy metal band, and he was the head singer, Valiant Thor. And he does that show on Instagram only. We're trying to get him to spread his wings and come on YouTube and other places, but he's very comfortable there. We'd love to see him come to YouTube and all the other broadcasting networks that we're a part of, but he's doing his thing over there. So if you enjoy Instagram Lives, if you enjoy anything that's out there, go check them out. Secondly, for the show, we have many guests. They will be announced as they come, which is a very important thing. Also, just to let all of you guys know, as it comes through, as the energy for the next guest, you're going to have a lot of new people coming to the show. We're going to have some repeats too. We do have second timers, third timers coming in and around. Just like you saw Ruben Langdon here last week, we will have some regulars revisiting us. And that'll be coming. But as far as the ET Whisper announcements, the first announcement is Kalina put out her new video, and that was an amazing channeling, a draconian channeling that was absolutely mind-blowing. The video production quality, the way she puts it together is always guided by her own guides and stuff. But if you haven't seen that, go check that out. I will share the link for that in the chat as we speak. Secondly, as you guys know, the ET Whisper email list is the best place to get all things ET Whisper. In fact, a couple things that are happening at this moment are only available on the mailing list. And I'll explain that here in a little bit. And here's the link, guys, in the chat for Kalina's video. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely go check it out. It's an amazing video. Yeah, so if you check out the email list, that would be great. If you want to keep in the loop of things, So the other announcements are the events that I've been talking to you guys about for the last couple months. In June, from the 20th to 24th, we have the Lumerian Life Expo. Ruben talked to us about that quite a bit last week. Amazing event. Lots of presenters that we've already shared information about, like we told you last week. You can go to the etwhisper.com and click on that Lumerian Life Expo. It'll take you right to the website. Then in July, from the 14th to 16th, in Connecticut on the ocean, we're going to have the Star Gate Crusader retreat. It's an amazing retreat. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight because our guest is actually the guy who's created that event. So we're going to be able to talk to him about that a little bit tonight. And this is going to be an amazing one, very intimate, very processed in long, where everyone gets to spend a lot of time with each other because the groups are so small. Plus, all of us will be living in the same area for multiple days, which is going to make it super amazing. You can also go to my website and click the picture of that poster and go right to the information. And then in August, I will be in upstate New York, Ananando, New York, if that's how you pronounce it. I will be there at Camp Ananando on the lake in a cabin with my friend Jim Charles from Human Colonies. More information will come out about that soon. Right now, they have it set up in a certain way where basically this is the event you would have to actually be on my email list right now to access, but they're working on a way to streamline the payments and to create some posters so that it's easier for people who don't know about Jim Charles and Human Colonies to be able to actually go and do that. So that's going to be amazing. And other things are coming. We just announced the channel panels website will be up very soon. We've already got presenters for that, and that's January of next year. January 3, 4, 5, Daryl Anka, Daryl Anka doing channeling Bashar, and then Wendy Kennedy and Lisa Royal Holt and Jamie Price and Daniel Scranton and Sean Swanson, myself, Kalina, and we're going to have up to 30 channelers in 3 days. It's going to be a huge event, an amazing event, and we're going to share more about that once we get the website up and live. So keep your eyes peeled at the ET Whisper, join the email list, and you'll get to know about all this stuff as it comes up. I think that's it, honestly. I really do believe that's it. I might be forgetting something. If I do, I will send it later. I'm also, as we speak, going to send links in the chat for all the events that I talked about and all the ways you can join the email list. But I don't think I care enough right now to do that because I want to focus on our guest tonight. Our guest, Glenn May, is a transformational coach based in heart-centered spirituality through the medium of intuitive connectivity, physical energy, psychological, and relational energies. Glenn has spent over 3 decades educating various authors and healer and a highly detailed motivational innovator in a demanding environment based in heart-centeredness. He has worked with many great leaders in the spiritual community, such as Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has ventured into creating deeper insights for people on a growth path, his own information received through higher self. With vast years of experience and knowledge of working with people, Glenn has achieved mastery in exacting the best. I could probably read a lot of good things about Glenn, but the best way to bring Glenn in is to bring Glenn in and introduce him to all of you guys. Welcome, Glenn. Thank you so much, brother, for being on the show tonight.
Oh, brother Rob, thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here and sending much love to you, to all of your listeners, and of course, Kalina Angel as well, and your family. So thank you for having me tonight.
Well, thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. And I see you brought a couple of a friend I've had since 2014, Daniel James. I just saw him in the chat, and I saw you got Tony there too. Hello, guys. All of you guys, welcome. Anyone in the chat, welcome, welcome. We're glad to have you here. I want to talk to you about these guys and what you're doing with them. But before we do that, I want to start you off where I start all my guests out.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a story that you have, and we want to know that. But before the story starts, there's always a molding and shaping process through our childhood. There's always things that happen, examples that happen, inspiration, people that influence who we are as a young child. And I just want to kind of understand, what was the story before the story? What were those influences in your early life that made you the Glenn that has the story that you have today?
You know, it's an interesting question, and thanks for asking that, Rob. You know, as we grow up, we kind of look back at our childhood retrospectively, and that's where all the insight seems to come from. At least that is for me. You know, when I was a small boy, maybe about 8 or 9 years old, I had my first out of body experience. And I came home just like any other kid, you know, plop your books down on the table, go up and hang out in your room because that becomes like your cave, your place. And I was just laying on my bed. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at my from the top down. I'm like, how could I do that? How does that work? Why am I seeing two completely different aspects of myself? And it was completely interesting. It lasted for what it felt like was maybe 5 minutes. And then I came back, you know, back into my consciousness of just being on the bed. And I go, hey, mom, you know, I felt like I was out of my body and I was in my room and I'm looking at myself from like an elevated perspective and I was just watching myself. And you know, my parents, being devout Roman Catholics, said, "Don't you ever do that again." And then the lid went on, and I didn't play with that. But I always had the curiosity of what was that, or is there, or is there something else going on? And it just lit the fire of my curiosity. So I just wanted to always know more, always know something. And throughout my teenage years growing up, just having more and more unusual experiences, what to do with it. So it's just an evolutionary process of just searching up these. There wasn't a lot of information out yet. And I was not necessarily the book kid either. It's the teen of, you know, Bon Jovi, Van Halen, and so, you know, it was a great time in my life. But also still always curious. And found myself getting into astrology and learning more about astrology. And that was kind of like, he opened up the doors. And all I did for the rest of my life was continue to.
Well, that's amazing, brother. I appreciate you sharing that. We are getting a little bit of audio cutting out here. I'm not sure if it's my broadcast location or if it's yours. If there's anything you have on there that might make a connection better, if you can do that while we're chatting, and I'll do the same over here. Yeah, it's a unique time, that specific time in our history too. The 1980s and 90s were really a transformational time for the whole world. I mean, time was growing, but technology really took a hard turn there. And the way that we perceived life also took a hard turn in the 50s, 60s, and really came to that crescendo in the 80s and 90s. Consumerism was a thing. Um, Coming out of the expression of fighting against the war, the free love movement of the 60s and 70s. And then the 50s was the era of being proper and being good and being, upright and righteous and good, wholesome American, loving your country, things like that. But the 80s were a bit weird because things started really kind of dividing more than what they had before, even though the 60s carried that war versus anti-war sentiment, and people in the construct of politics always didn't like politics, and religious ideologies clashing. I mean, it was always a thing, but it seemed to be more intense then. But when you grew up in that time, there was a kind of magic that existed in that time period too. Like you said, the music that you listened to, like the Bon Jovi and stuff, it was really something that was really unique and experience. But it sounds like through that time period was a lot of the exploration and then getting it shut down. And it sounds very similar to my own story. The early exploration of these things were looked at like, no, God does not want you looking at things like that. Um, which kind of makes you want it more, because you're like, wow, this is taboo, so it's got to be good.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's got to be cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I just jumped down the rabbit hole, and it was really interesting. I had an invitation to go with my girlfriend at the time with her parents to Virginia Beach, and it was a fun experience, walking on the boardwalk, and decided to each have our palm read. Unbeknownst to us, and later in life, I was that we were in the land of Edgar Cayce, and that the two palmists that read us said we're with the Edgar Cayce Foundation, that they were part of that training. And it didn't make very much sense to me because I had no idea who Edgar was. But what was really interesting is there were two women there, and I went to one, and my girlfriend at the time went to the other, and we both palms read. And then we finished having our palms read, we came back about it, and the conversation was, well, what did your palmist say? And they said the exact thing that was really unique. They both said to us that you're with the you're going to marry, and that you will both have two children of the same gender. It stuck in my head like like a hot iron sword going through my brain. Like, how do these people know this? How do they know
Right.
this information? Uh, and it just continued to open that door a little bit further. Explore, well, what's out there? What's the truth? How did it exist? And the thing is that that's exactly what happened. Married at the age of 20. We were both 20 years old. And, we had two sons. So that prophecy was absolutely fulfilled.
That's insane. It's amazing how you can kind of bump into these things and experience it that way. And I did want to let you know too, Glenn, we have some audio cutting out, and it seems to only be on your side, which means that there might be a signal issue. If it gets much worse, maybe you can come in on your cell phone if you have a good cell phone signal.
Okay, I could try that.
Um, yeah, I mean, and you can try that while you're on here too to see if it works, and then we can test that once you get connected through there. And maybe, maybe we could do it that way if this doesn't work. But or so, and then it'll go for like 10 seconds or so, cutting in and out real bad. But yeah, we can definitely try that too. I just want to make sure everybody can hear everything you're saying. I'm getting the gist of most of it just because I'm hearing most of it, but it seems to be that most other people are missing big chunks.
Oh,
Um,
I apologize.
oh, it's all
Let's see.
right. It
Let's see if we
happens
can make this
sometimes.
a quick minor adjustment. Let's see if this works or doesn't work.
Sure.
How do you hear me now?
I'm hearing you good. If you can, it seemed to cut out for a second again. And I don't think it's an audio thing. I think it's a signal thing, like an internet signal.
Okay. Yeah, I just checked
Um,
my bandwidth. I'm up on 5 bars, so
okay.
um,
All
not
right.
sure what
Well,
it is, but we can certainly switch if it continues any more. We'll switch to cell phone and we'll make that work.
all right. Well, that sounds good, brother. So yeah, so you come into this experience, and you're getting the capacity experience some of that. But take us from that area to where you started getting into the depths, the very deep stuff. Was there one event that kind of shifted your whole reality? Was it a lot of little events leading up to it from that childhood and getting into that reading? Was it the reading itself that you took that was that one pathway to the bigger experience?
Rob, I'd have to say a series of years and a series of breadcrumbs. So every year there'd be certain experiences in life that would be monumental, um, and just continued and continued and continued. The thing that was interesting is I kept picking up books. So in my life, in what I call my working career, I was a career firefighter, EMT, and at night I would, instead of watching TV with the guys or playing a game or doing something that wasn't really meaningful, I would go sit in my bunk and I would learn how to do something, or learn how to meditate, or learn about Egyptian history and pyramids, or learn about flower essences and crystals, and what different ceremonies, different Indian tribes and different. And so I started to be super inquisitive, and I was always looking for some type of truth, some type of answer to bring me to another type of experience, or to get a better understanding. And it just started to close the door on religion and really open the door wide on spirituality and become more open-minded. So there wasn't really any prolific experience that made something, a dramatic change, almost until I hit, probably around 2010. Just started to see visions and see colors and see some things. It started to almost freak me out, because I questioned myself so much. If I Am I really seeing what I'm seeing? Am I understanding what I'm seeing? And I didn't know what if I was opening a door of Pandora's box, uh, because still in 2010 there wasn't a lot of people out there that were promoting spirituality. And if promoting, you kind of had to be in the know, or been in a inner circle, to really say, oh, this is a person that, um, sees something or knows something or is a medium. And it was still in a growth period, is from what my perspective is, until we hit, between 2010 and today. Things are starting to explode, where the internet together, and we find each other. Google search does a great job for us when we want to connect with different people, and about what other people's gifts are. So one of the things that I would say is a little bit more prolific in 2017, during my career job, taking a very large person out of a second floor gas emergency. And as I was taking this person out, um, they were very scared and frightened, because they didn't speak English, and they weren't really sure what was going on. And my Spanish was so short and not broad enough to express what we were doing, uh, that they were scared, and went to grab for a railing as we were going down a set of stairs. And it forced us to tumble down the stairs together. Uh, Luckily, the patient was fine when we got to the bottom. I was not. I had suffered a back injury that had actually taken me out of my fire service career. And I call that my divine intervention, because as much as I was learning, as much as I was reading, as much as I was opening up, I still didn't devote myself 100% to my spiritual path. And this was kind of like the boot in the butt to kick you and say, this is the direction you're going to go. And I'm going to just shut off all of your life the way that you knew it. And you're going to start following that is completely different.
That's intense. That's a big push. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you?
No, no, no.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
You had cut out again. And the audio is cutting out again pretty badly in certain spots. So if you want to try while I'm chatting to see if you can sign on your phone too, and we'll see if that sounds any better. You can do it from both too, the computer and the phone. Just by clicking the link, and we'll see if that makes it any better. But that had to have been is a very intense thing, you know. First of all, just putting your life on the line as an EMT, as a firefighter, as any of those jobs where you're putting yourself at risk all the time, it takes a special type of person. And I know that in our environment and between 2016 and 2021, there was a lot of hatred for police because of a lot of, you know, world events and stuff that happen. But the fact is, anyone who chooses to do a job that helps other people, is always amazing in my own eyes. You know, even though police arrest people and do that, they spend more time assisting people than they do arresting them, or you know, the other way around. So the experience of that is always in awe to me from people who I've known who've done EMT work, fire work. So that's an intense thing already, but to be pulled out of it in such a drastic way, it's got to be something, you know, not just calling to you, but it's got to be something that was probably a little scary at first too. And I'm going to go ahead and check you, bring in. Oh, there's a lot of feedback on this one. Um, yeah, if I turned off your mic, I don't know if you can mute your mic on your own or not from the phone, or if you can attach some headphones. But I could hear my own voice feedback on that one pretty good. And if not, you can just come back on your other on your computer and talk there for a sec. All right, so okay, I can't hear myself now.
Can
That's good.
can you hear me clear now?
I can hear you beautifully. This is actually very clear, and we'll see if it stays up. And if you want, you can keep on the PC just for backup for now. And yeah, but you sound a lot clearer.
Perfect. I'm on my phone now. Thank you. And I apologize to everybody out there if I was cutting out. There's a with all of the spiritual opening, this is one of the things that has become a Glenism. This is really pronounced. I have a dramatic effect on anything electrical now.
I did that for the first few years of my channeling too. It was really intense for like the first 2 or 3 years. Anything that could happen did. Um, I even remember recording a session and it went out like 5 minutes early on the person. And then when we listened back to the recording, there was sounds like almost like a spirit, like, oh, it was crazy. But yeah, it was great. So yeah, so take us through that experience, you know. This pulled you into a whole new reality and it pushed you. This was your sign. Was there fear that went with it first? Was it a reaction immediately like, oh my God, I know why this happened and it's a good thing that I'm going to go down my spiritual path, or was there some resistance there?
There was absolutely some resistance, Rob. There's a lot of things that going from one career that was, paid, and that is your living. That's how you've made a living for, over a decade, 2 decades, to how do I make how do I make all of this work? And, one of the fears was like, well, do I know enough? Am I good enough? Can I help people in this way of bringing them through their ascension process? Can I help them remove, emotional traumas? And one of the strongholds that I had, Rob, was that I was a teacher in the fire service. So part of my job and my second job, so I was kind of like an all in the fire service. So I was a firefighter EMT career. That was my career job for one municipality. Then I worked for another municipality as a deputy fire marshal, um, career, as a second job. As a third job, I worked for the state of Connecticut as a Connecticut Fire Academy instructor. And then I had my own business teaching technical rescue. And then I wrote all of the standards for the fire service, which are kind of like the rules of the road that we have across the United States. So I was so deep into this career. And then I had to make the switch of going into spirituality. I was kind of like the workaholic that works 120 hours a week. I was the fireaholic that that did all of that type of fire service. Anything to do with the fire service, I was in it. So one of the things that I drew from all of that work that I did is the teaching and the one-to-one communication with people every day, because I really enjoyed that. And when I started to look at it, it was widening my perspective that I'm still serving people. I'm just serving them in a much different way. And that kind of made the transition easier for me to understand that where I fit in. And then the fear was, well, can I get over, like, am I good enough? Do I know enough? Because I had read and read and read, and I did a little bit of coaching for other guys that wanted to go through the promotional process. So I would teach them how to speak to the promotional boards, that they had to be in the hot seat in order to get the next level job that they wanted.
I see.
Because so I just had that natural coaching ability, and I just kind of continue to build on that. So that's where the transformational coach kind of title came from. And I just kind of drew that out of the hat. I'm like, this is kind of what I do. I help people get to the next level that they really want to be. And sometimes that's just clearing out emotional trauma. Sometimes that's learning how to utilize their intellectual properties of their heart in a coherent heart brain state. Sometimes it's learning or teaching people how to find their own ascension path and what they need to know in order to open up their gifts. So it continued to evolve, and it evolved so far as I started to do light language, and I speak a very pronounced, very defined light language. And then it came into starting to channel. So it just kept blossoming and blossoming and blossoming. The more that I taught, the more that I gave, the more that I meditated, the more that I integrated all of the things that I read and learned, and it just started to really blossom.
Well, going back to kind of that fear that was there, it sounds like because you were in this community of firefighting so deeply, and so much of that was a part of your life, and every aspect of your work evolved around this. Would you say that being a firefighter was an integral part of your own identity?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you you kind of walk with the bravado of a firefighter, and now it was time in the spiritual world to let go of all of that. So that's a big shift right there, to let go of that ego and then lead with vulnerability.
Oh, that's two way different energies to
Right.
a place where you're teaching people to literally take charge of the moment and help others survive physically, to helping someone allow themselves to take charge of themselves and help themselves spiritually. Yeah, those are way different forms of energy, and that's what I find so amazing about this transition. Um, for most people who I've met had pretty drastic experiences that shifted them, or slow experiences. Some people were kind of lucky enough to be like yourself, who had a young experience, very in depth, and just kind of connected, but didn't have anyone there to say, no, 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 don't do that. So they kept it going.
Right.
So most of these different types of energies, but the one thing I found with people who lived a certain life and then it just changed or switched through one kind of bigger event, um, there's a process of the old them dying, and I know that that was for me, and that process took years for me. It didn't take overnight. Even after I'm channeling publicly, there was still part of the old Rob that was slowly fading away and slowly dying. And you know, I saw it like that, and I kind of scared myself to think that, oh my God, if I let any of that old me exist, I can't be a newer self or a newer version of me. But even later, I learned, those parts of me just need to be integrated, understood, and don't let those parts control me. You know, so it's a huge process. Is there any times where you look back now and still wish that you had anything to do with that life, or is this fulfilled you to the level where you don't even miss it?
It's funny because you say that, and I'll share with you a little experience today that these kind of little things kind of crop up out of nowhere. So I am so blessed to have a great relationship with the channel Tony Ghazi, who is the Entarian heart, who channels the mantis beings, and of course, Daniel and Lauren from the Moment Film Company. We happen to all be together today, and our decision for the day was to go out and do an excursion. There is an ancient site in Groton, Connecticut, that has a stone circle that dates back to about 2000 BC. It's not well known.
Oh,
We
wow.
so I wanted to take them there, and I've been having this calling to go out and to do a connection with the land, to do some light language in this stone circle. And we were met by this lovely older gentleman who was our guide, who kind of brought us through all of the sites and gave us the archaeological explanations and gave us some explanations about the trees and whatnot. As soon as we entered the forest and traversed deep into this to find this stone circle and all of these ancient sites, you felt magic immediately. We saw, fairy spirits. We saw the nature spirits. We were flown over by hawks. We were in the midst of these energetic awakenings. And as we're going to our next spot, we take a quick break to look over this 80-foot drop of a ridge. And lo and behold, there is a firefighter tool on the ground. It's called a roof hook, and it's something that a firefighter would use to open up a roof so he can vent out the gas and the fire that is coming, that the firemen below are trying to put out. Just clear as day. This has no purpose to be in the middle of the woods. It's not a well-traveled place. So it's very unique. And there also is a half of a saw blade. Well, part of my job as a line firefighter, I was on a ladder company, and we call ourselves truckies. So the tools that we would carry the moment we get off the fire truck would be a roof hook and a saw.
Oh, that's great. And this is just out here in the ancient burial site in the
This
middle of
this
the
is out in an
woods.
ancient burial site. It has no being out there, no purpose. It was just bizarre. And it's just, Tony, my dearest brother, he's like, this, Glenn, this is confirmation. This is the end, to let all of that go. This is time to, this is all behind you. This is 100% behind you. So I traversed with the woods with my staff, my new golden staff of light, in which we called it, which was the fireman's roof hook. And I brought it home with me today. So,
Oh
that's how
man.
some of these little synchronicities pop up for me. Um, and it's just confirmation that I'm on the right path.
That's it. And the reason I kept asking and kind of going at that, because I felt that there was this string of energy that was attached. When you're doing something in a community that's so big like that, um there's a level of energy that just kind of winds into you and becomes a part of you. My dad was a military guy. He loved it. He did 17 years there. He would have done his whole life if they let him. And he was so integrated into the supply sergeant aspect that he had rewritten the entire military aspects, like the books on how to be a supply sergeant. My dad is the one who wrote those in the late 70s.
Mm,
And I'm not even sure if they're still around or if they've changed it since then. I'm sure now with new technology they probably changed it a few times. But um, when you do something like that and you have any excitement where you're building the regulations and things, it means that you're deeply integrated. It means that there's a part of you that's so connected to that work that you understand it at a level that no one else does.
right.
Like, you have such integrated aspects of that energy into you, and it feels like your whole purpose in life is to understand mastery. So let's say spirituality bored you in 20 years, which I know it never will, but and making donuts was something that excited you, you would be the best donut maker in the world.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
That's beautiful. I love that. People who are driven by their excitement and follow that are always my favorite type of people, because that is really hard, even when you know that's what you're supposed to do, even though you know that that's really the best path. Especially when you're first starting and you don't know what to do, you just know you want to do it. And this is what prevents so many people in our community from reaching that. I would say probably some of it's built into you as a part of your personality archetype and part of your soul's desire and design. But what would you tell people who are facing that same thing? Like, hey, I want to get into spirituality. I know I'm being called. I just don't know where to start. How do they get going?
One of the things that I always speak to that when have a new client that is questioning and we have a dialogue and they're wondering, where do I go with this? What do I do? And what I love to teach, and it's become one of my strong points, is all the answers are already within you. And when you focus your attention into your heart and you really start to learn to listen to what it's telling you, the path becomes very visible. It becomes wide open, but it's following your heart. And it's not about thinking about it, because our thinking brain just analyzes it. It pairs with things that we can recognize, realize, or something that we already know. But the heart thinks, but the heart knows what to do. It knows what to follow. You just have to allow that to blossom and to come through. And the heart's like an onion. The center is where the gold is, and it has all of these layers that surround it. So sometimes we need to peel back a couple of layers to figure out where that heart vibration is coming from and where it's going to take us. But it always will lead us in the right direction. The problem is our monkey mind questions the heart all the time, because we have to come against fear. And that's the part that we have to hurdle. And that's the part that I get to help a lot of people with, to get over that hump of fear, to begin to learn to trust their heart, to follow that passion, to follow that desire. And then once they start running, they're self-empowered. And that's the beautiful thing about it. We just have to learn that once we get past that fear, we have the tool of self-empowerment, and it's endless.
Well, I really love that, and I'm always on board for the following the heart aspects of anything, and something that helped me with Trev early on, when he had shared the idea. Your heart knows best for you. It knows better than any longest living entity in the universe, the wisest being you could ever know. Your heart will know better than that being, because it is you. It's connected to your higher self, and it really helped drive home the depth of how much I love Tread, but also the importance of using that energy. I think too, the monkey mind has its moments. It keeps you safe, like when you're crossing the street and you didn't see a car coming. Those types of things, it's good for. It's built in to protect your physical self, but somewhere along our evolution, it decided it wanted to protect our emotional self and our spiritual self, and those are two places we don't need that type of protection.
Right.
And I have a million theories and information too from Trevor and article about why that happened, but I don't, just the idea of that being bastardized too in our community is something that I don't always resonate with too. It's like it does have a purpose, but the heart's purpose is the higher purpose for spiritual evolution, and following that's kind of the key out. um you know you don't not have to have a monkey mind, just don't listen to it in matters of the heart and excitement and path and all that good stuff. But um so so take us then to that point. You've explained to us it's a breadcrumb thing, and that big change in your career path really made you shift. And this is something I learned too from my own experience when I went from channeling part-time and doing it for free for people and just doing it on the internet as a hobby, for lack of better things to call it, I guess.
Hmm.
That was good, and I learned a lot and I grew a lot. But the moment I said, you know what, I have to do one or the other. I either have to quit my job and start doing this for financial, or stop doing this as much, because I had no time left in my life and I was draining my energy. And I chose to do channeling. When I started doing it daily and doing it multiple times a day and spending hours a day focused on that and that energy, it just blew my consciousness out of the water compared to the growth I had before. So that is something that I recognize has a huge part in your growth and development. But can you kind of take us to there when you first really started diving in? And you said you went to the light language and then to channeling. Can you share some specific experiences where those things uh, got pushed forward to the front of your experience?
Sure. So after my divine injury, life fell apart. Everything as I knew it just fell apart. My relationship with my girlfriend at the time completely dismantled and fell apart. Um, my parents both had passed away, one right after the other after in COVID, but not related to COVID. And I have two older brothers, and my oldest brother had a nervous breakdown and a stroke, and he became disabled. So he became part of my, he became part of my responsibility to care for. And there was a lot of time. I started to have so much weight on my shoulders that I felt like I was, an inch tall on the curb. So I had to do a lot of soul searching and started to do a lot of shadow work and tried to, unveil all of the deep traumas that I kind of boxed in. And throughout my fire service career, it's unfortunate, but when we take the job, that we know we're going to see some things that we don't like. We know that we're going to be in some experiences that we don't like. And I had to peel back all of the layers of all of those traumas that I had experienced, and all the way back to my childhood. And I spent a good solid 3 years healing. And then something changed. Something changed in me that I started to look for inspiration. And I would look at a set of words and then almost have a feeling or a sense like I should write about this. I should put down my thoughts and feelings. So, what I began to do every day, I would look at something inspirational and I'd drop into my heart and I would write maybe a paragraph, maybe two paragraphs, or maybe, you know, 4 or 5 pages on something. And I did it every day without exception. And I stuck with it. I'm like, I just did a 365 days. So why don't I see how far I can take this? And then I began to start to post it. So every day I made the intention that every day I'm going to post something inspirational. I'll see what the words mean to me. I'll see what an image means to me. And I'll continue to do that. And it's just started to bring stuff forward. And all of a sudden, just the words just came easily. It was effortless. And by the time I hit 2 years of doing that every day without exception, I started to have this feeling like something was emerging every time I went into a meditation, or I was performing some type of clearing ceremony, or I was, setting an intentive something for manifesting that I wanted to see in my life, in a ceremony. And I felt like something was coming out. So I started waving my hands. I'm like, I'm just by myself. Nobody will ever know what I'm doing. And then these these words started, or these sounds started coming out. I'm like, am I speaking like Japanese or something? And I had absolutely no idea I had no idea what light language was. And I just went with it. I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing this. It feels good, so I'm going to keep doing it. And I just kept with it, kept with it, kept with it. And all of a sudden, was doing more, and I became friends with Ruben, and like, hey, Ruben's like, really, I think you're doing light language, and happened to be another synchronistic time, and um, someone validated, yeah, you're speaking light language, and this is what you're saying. And then the more I did that, the more I would speak my light language and have my hand movement, and then I would receive a message behind it of what that packed thought form was, that activation code that I was dispensing, that what that all of those sounds together made. And it was just interesting, and it just became easier and easier and easier the more I did it.
It's amazing. And I don't want to put you on the spot here, but is there a way you could share a little bit of light language, maybe a minute or two of light language for us?
I'd love to, if that's all right with you, brother.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. I think everybody else would love to.
All right, let me just give me a second just to drop into my heart,
Yeah, take your
and
time, brother.
move myself aside, and we'll let her rip. Akunuyatta kena shunuyatta takuana yata akana e atsata ake tutunua tata anayakata ayate shitea uno ko eata akana yata aya udununu shudakayata a etea no uno yakata yana nana keata to ushakata anayata te ete shite no katana yata ekayata eda unayata ta eshite ku uayan nanayata uka tate nuno kayata ta. And love and light.
That's amazing. And if you find insight or can share anything about, you said sometimes you get these messages about what was in the encoding and that, feel free to share that too.
Mm. What I'm receiving is that it's a message for your listeners who are interested in developing whatever pathway of spirituality that they feel called to, is to be in your heart space, to find that, and allow the bravery and the courage to step forward, to come into it, because that is your true calling. That is the mission or the blueprint in which you signed up for when you came into this incarnation. That it is divine guidance that you will receive, because it is you that is guiding you.
I love that. I appreciate that too. And we get some feedback in the chat room. A few people said it felt very tribal. The energy felt very tribal, and for me, it felt very anciently earthish. And I know light language comes in a million forms. Some of it's kind of defined, and some of it's defined galactically or earthly, and some of it's not defined. Some of it's just like, hey, this is light language, make of it what you want, do with it what you need to. But I felt that very old earth energy too. So thank you for sharing that, brother. I appreciate it. So
My
take
pleasure.
us to that point where you went from there to channeling. Maybe the first experience you had with channeling.
First experience I had with channeling, I really had no idea I was channeling or what I was channeling. What I do when I want to have the intention of bringing my light languages in is I drop into my heart and I slow my breathing down. So when I do that, because I practice it very often, I go into a very heart brain coherent state. So I'm utilizing both the neurons in my heart and the neurons in my brain in a nervous system connection. And I can somewhat elevate my brainwave to, that higher alpha to theta state. And when the first time I channeled it, really, it kind of caught me by surprise. I just started speaking in a way that is very Native American. So, it's no mistake that I have this, let's, for a better word, use the word dialect that has a very Native American sense to it, because the first entity or group of that I channeled was later indicated to me that they were the collective of Native American Indian chiefs. And I'm still working with that, so I consider that a work in progress. Just as I've done in my fire service mastery, before I go super public with what I do in channeling, I feel that it's important to really master that, because I like to come from authenticity, and that's super super important to me. And anything that I do, that I'm completely transparent, completely vulnerable, and 100% authentic all the time. There's no question what it is. So I am continuing to hone that skill of channeling, but it's been an exciting journey to get to that point. I never in a million years would you tell me, as I started my fire service career, you're going to get hurt and you're going to end up to be a channel, because I would have never believed it.
Yeah, I know that routine too. If I tell everyone, if the 5-year pre spiritual experience person saw me on a video channeling, I would think, oh, okay, so I did lose my mind eventually. you know.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. Yeah.
No,
So,
that's great though. It's and I do appreciate the fact that you don't put anything out publicly until you feel that you felt it out all the way, because God bless people. I love people who do things that excite them, and I should never tell people what they should do and what they shouldn't do. It doesn't feel right for me to even mention it, but I've seen a lot of people who just learn how to channel jump online and start channeling, and that act alone is not a bad thing, but a lot of people don't understand the repercussions of channeling when it comes to how other people receive channeling.
right.
You channeling your own thing is great, but there are a certain group of people who hear the word channeling, and when they hear that, they hear, oh, whatever's being said is 100% truth from source.
Correct.
So they
Correct.
are going to, if that channeling said, hey, everyone, you should do your best to just sell your house and move out into the desert. There
Right.
are people who would literally do that. Even if they heard just some random Joe with 2 subscribers on the side of YouTube nobody's seen, they would still say, oh, this is channeling. So it's the truth. So I really appreciate people who take the time to cultivate that before they share it publicly, because those people who take that so seriously, as if with no discernment involved, um, it can get bad. And I've seen people that had levels of discernment who have still integrated so much more because they have this perspective. Oh, consciousness is higher than mine. It's smarter than me. I should just listen to it.
Correct.
And that's, the other reason why I love Treb telling people, hey, listen to your own heart, don't listen to me. If something I say doesn't work with you, then do what you're feeling. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So
It,
I appreciate it.
yeah.
Authenticity is important, but understanding what you have that you're sharing is also pretty important.
Right. And, you know, just like we each as human beings have different perspectives, every extra dimensional, extraterrestrial being gives information from their perspective.
1,000%. Yep.
And we have to take that into consideration, how that fits with our personality, how it fits with our perspective, and how it fits, how does that resonate with our heart? Because we can think something is true, but does it feel true? Right?
Right.
Is there a question in your heart? And that's a lot of the discernment process. And that's, one of the responsibilities that I take when I do any of my work is that I, what we do is sacred, and spirituality is the most sacred thing because it's so individual for people. And we need to be conscious of the experience that we're creating, that it's authentic, that it is in alignment with their truth and their understanding. And the messages that we give may not always fit with all of that. So I take really great responsibility in that.
Well, I appreciate that as a channeler. And I did exactly what I caution others not to do, and that's why I caution them to be careful about just, hey, I learned how to channel yesterday. Here it is publicly for all to see, because I did exactly that. I channeled 4 times and went on YouTube and just started channeling.
Mm,
And I this is why I started channeling in 2010, but the first video you'll see is 2013, because the first 2 or 3 years of channeling, I had a lot of filtering issues. And some of the things that were said weren't harmful or weren't bad, but they didn't represent the actuality of what my channeling was.
right.
So I took them away from the public.
Right.
It and it took me that long to realize that. But so I don't judge people. I understand the excitement when you learn to do something that powerful. It's like you want everyone to know, that's willing to hear, because the way it helped you, it might be able to help them. Some
Right.
people do it just because they think it's cool. I did it because I legitimately thought, hey, Treb changed my life. So if Treb can change another person's life, it will be worth sharing it. My hope was that maybe 10 people would see it, and out of those 10, one person might get 10% of what I got in my life shift, never expecting it to become what I do for my whole life. You know what I mean? But
Right.
that following excitement part, listening to your heart, that's the reason why it happened. I did that. You did that. And most people who are doing their spiritual journey, who are living either a very spiritually fulfilling life or being on a path that feels fulfilling, are also doing that. So I really love all the combinations of these ideas of following your heart and also working with that discernment. Um, we're coming up in about 10 minutes to our lightning round, so I want to start talking about the work you're doing now. You've got the event coming up here in just a few months at this point. Can you share a little bit about why you wanted to create this event, why you wanted to connect with the people who are there, who are going to be presenting at the event, and just kind of the whole theme of the event altogether?
Right. Um, this was an idea that I've been tossing around for a couple years, and a lot of the things that I have been so blessed to receive in my life is the opportunity to go to many retreats, to be part of as a presenter in retreats, and taking all of the good aspects that I've learned, and I've been afforded to have in my lifetime probably better than 30 retreat experiences. So I started to think about what the difference is between a true retreat and an event. And they both have different purposes. So if you want to go to an event and see a particular um, channel or presenter, that is a great opportunity to maybe get some flavors of other presenters and pick up some other knowledge, see if something else interests you. And you're with, you know, maybe sometimes 50, maybe it's sometimes 500 people. And what it lacks is the intimacy of that presenter interacting directly with you. So I liked the idea of having multiple presenters, but I thought, can I take it another step and create something that is much more intimate, something that hasn't necessarily been done before? One of the things that I liked about some of the religious retreats that I had in my earlier years was the intimacy of being with a group of people for a number of days to really embody who they actually are, not just as Rob Gauthier, the ET whisperer, but Rob, the person, the human that's behind the channeling voice. Who is Rob? How do I get to know him? Can I have a conversation with him? What's Rob's favorite food? What does Rob like to do in his spare time? What is Rob's life like about it? So I liked the idea of creating something more intimate, and I wanted to do it in a linear fashion. So I created this idea of immersive retreat of 3 full days, being in the same space, being in the same environment, and having a limited enrollment of people so they would have the opportunity to get to know every presenter. And they'd also have the opportunity of not having to choose one presenter over another. It being in a linear fashion, they would get the full experience from the moment they stepped in to the moment they went out. And I wanted to take it a couple of steps further, even than that. Because what happens sometimes at events, or even some retreats, depending on how they're set up, is when someone leaves to go get lunch or they want to go back to their hotel, they start to lose that energetic presence, that energetic that comes from the communal experience. So I wanted to do that one step further and create an all-inclusive event. So when you sign up for the Star Gate Crusader retreat, you're getting your lodging, you're getting all of your food, you're getting all of the presenters, you're getting all of the events that we do, and you get all of the community from the moment you step in to the moment you go home. So it's really embodying the word immersive because it truly is. You have everything of your needs taken care of. Even if you want a vegan diet or you have a food allergy, we can accommodate that. And then I said, okay, I'm going to take this 10 more steps further. I'm going to design this with the very best presenters in the very best place. And I'll give a little tidbit about what's really unique about the place that I chose. So, in my knowledge base, in my channeling, in my research, in listening to other channelers that I know are authentic, Atlantis really is in the Atlantic Ocean. And in there are two crystal cities that are emitting energy, and that energy comes in the form of a ley line. The ley line comes across from the Atlantic Ocean, and one of the first places it hits is called Montauk Point in Long Island,
Mm.
New York. It is called, in an Indian term, Hammonasset Line. So this energetic line, or this ley line, comes across Montauk Point. It comes across Long Island Sound, and the first place it hits in Connecticut is in Madison, Connecticut. So in my research, I looked for places in the area that I knew had some unique energetic abilities. And knowing the land having its own energy and having the ley line having its own energy, where would be a perfect place? So we located a retreat center that was all inclusive, that had all of the things that I wanted. And it is the first place that this ley line hits as it hits into Connecticut on the beach. So what
And
would
it's a gorgeous place,
it's a gorgeous
visually
place.
stunning. Yeah.
So it has all of this energy here. And um, again, Tony Ghazi, myself, Daniel and Lauren from the Moment Film Company, we just spent 3 days there, and we did some land clearing. We did some grid work to connect the energies of the ley line to the beach. And I can assure you how powerful that area is. It's phenomenal. So it's going to only enhance the guests and all of our presenters, our experience. So I just put it all together, and here we have the Star Gate Crusader retreat that's happening here in Madison, Connecticut in July, from the 14th to the 16th.
And I agree with you in the aspects of how the retreats slash workshops slash events, whatever you call them, how different those can be. And the best ones I've ever had, I just got done doing the biggest one I've ever been to as an event in Sedona. 500 people sitting in the audience, thousands of people watching the video after. I was on the same stage as some of the biggest names in our community, and I felt really great about that. But the time I got to spend with people was so limited. Even good friends of mine who I haven't got to see for years, just so limited. There was so much attention that had to be divided between so many people. The best one I ever had was where we had 25 seats maximum, and me and Kalina spent 10-hour days with them and just spend it with them there. But this takes it further than even that. You're spending an entire 3 days in the same compound, in the same area, in the same quarters, in the same place, and just experiencing one another. And I think that's beautiful. I've never seen it done that way before in anything that I personally had done, and the very few places that I've seen done that had a lot more people going. So again, that the division of time versus the division of attention you can give to everyone is way, way different. And, with this one, you have several presenters, and the ratio of presenters to attendees is actually very low. I mean, you've got one presenter for maybe every 3 people or
That's
four
right.
people, right? So that means you can spend hours with one another, getting to chat with the presenters and with each other, versus being able for 15 minutes to maybe be able to get a decently started conversation. And I love that, because that's my favorite part about these things, is being able to communicate and connect with people. And as much as the big event was great, and it really was fun and it was awesome, it didn't give me a chance to get to know anyone. Like Tony, I got to meet him twice, Tony Ghazi, and he is an amazing soul, lovely heart, beautiful human being. But I wished I would have got more time with him, and I wish I
Yeah.
would have got more time with everybody else. I only got to see my friend Daryl. Anka, he just comes in and leaves, though, so that's one.
Yeah.
But I only got to hang out with him for 15-20 minutes, and I haven't seen him for years. So these types of experiences are beautiful, and I think that's a way to set it. And I know your intention is to continue doing this every year, maybe multiple times per year, and really connect people with the people of the community, presenters and otherwise. um, we'll talk more about specifics here in a few minutes, but right now we're coming up to the hour 15 mark. So I want to do lightning round with you.
You
And
bet.
this gets to let our audience do just a tiny taste of the same thing you're trying to do with the presenters and your people. We want to get to know you as the human Glenn instead of the amazing firefighter turned spiritual Glenn that we've gotten to know throughout the day. Um, so a few benevolent questions. No definitive, and if you want to pass one, let me know. But sounds good to you?
Yeah, let's roll.
All right. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue. All right. Is there any specific shade of blue or just all blues?
All blues. I have two blue cars. I wear blue. I wore a blue uniform for 30 years. My colors are blue, blue, blue. All shades of blue.
Blue used to absolutely be my favorite color growing up until after I'd been on my spiritual journey for a while, and then purple crept into there. But the purple is blue with red in it, right? So
Right.
still, I love blue. Um, what is your favorite food?
I love baked mac and cheese because my mom used to make it for me when I was a kid, and she used to make it from scratch with the twisty elbows, and I just love that. So I've always loved that good hearty mac and cheese.
Is there anything in there besides cheese and the noodles?
Oh, you put a little breadcrumbs in there, and then you bake it, and you get that harder, crusty cheese on the top.
So
It's just
crunchy and velvety with the
yeah.
cheese. Yeah, that's a good one. I know some people who put lots of stuff in their mac and cheese, like meats and also and they get wild with it. But perfect. What is your favorite song and or band?
Well, I said I was a kid from the '80s, and I'm still a hardcore hairband rocker at heart. So one of my favorite songs is "Unchained" by Van Halen,
Oh yeah,
and that
Van
is off
Halen's
of
great.
Diver Down. That's about 1981, I believe. I think that album came out in '81.
So that was the Eddie Van Halen era.
That was the Eddie Van Halen era,
Is that the only
and David
version
Lee
of?
Roth.
Is that the only version of them that you like, or do you like it with the other head singer?
I like Sammy Hagar as well. You know, I graduated in 1987, so that kind of gives you everybody a little, tidbit of how old I am. But I, I saw those concerts when they came out. I was at every Van Halen within the first 10 rows. Slashing my head. Listen to just the vibration of the amplifiers. It was over loud, and for the next 3 days, you couldn't hear a thing.
That's a heck of a concert though to go to. I gotta see REO Speedwagon and holy crap, who else was
Sticks.
playing with them? Sticks. Yeah, I gotta see both them play. So you must have seen them team up too around the early
Yeah,
2000s.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
making the fairground tour, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing one. What is your favorite animal?
My favorite animal would be a horse.
Is there a reason behind the
Yeah, when
horse?
when I was 9 years old, maybe 8 years old, even maybe a little bit younger, I started to learn how to ride, and I fell in love with this pony named Prince, and I would always, you know, go and bring him carrots and sugar cubes and whatnot, and then, you know, ask if I could ride him for a little while. So, always love horses, big
Well, that's
hearts,
yeah.
big-hearted animals.
I've heard that one of the people we had on as a guest was actually talking about their experience with horses, and she had worked with horses, and then after her connection to her spiritual journey and communicating with animals, horses are kind of like a medium that she utilized to connect with other energies. So yeah, that's beautiful. Um, I know. Okay, yes. Out of all the places you've been on Earth, uh, in nature, what was the place that was both most beautiful visually and the feeling, the vibration, the energy of it?
There's something about Sedona that's just magical of the high desert. And when I come to visit Sedona, I come by myself to enrich myself, to embody myself, to ground myself. And I will do all of the crazy hikes because of my technical rescue background. I have no problem going up to the top of Bell Rock. I have no problem going up to Cathedral Lead past all the signs that say don't go any further than here. I go to all those spaces. So I have a special place in my heart for Sedona.
Yeah, Sedona, I've only had the opportunity to be there twice in the recent past, and both times were life altering, life changing, energetically shifting, huge energy shifts. Yeah, it's a very powerful vortex in a place. Like I always explain, like out west they have the um Sedona as a focal point, and in the east, Asheville is one of those towns that is known as a spiritual hub or a
Mm.
hot spot. And I really can't wait for this Madison, Connecticut too, for the energy the way you described. I really want to feel that too. So, um, last question,
You bet.
and this one can be a little personal, but it sounds like it should be okay for you. What is your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory has to be being on a pony, just riding, just a super connected time in my life to animals. And I've always had a love of animals and a respect for animals. That's probably my favorite childhood memory. Just being on a horse as a kid.
Anytime and every time you were riding, just that was the
That was
moment
it.
of love, yeah.
Right. Just you pure bliss.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Well, that's all for the lightning round. I want to give you the floor to share a bit more of the details, about the event coming up. I also want to give you a space to talk about how people can get a hold of you, the types of services and work that you do with people and offer. But before we do that, I want to say, first of all, thank you for being you. Being able to meet you was a great thing. Being able to connect with your energy was an amazing thing. Getting to know you since then has been even better, and I really appreciate that you're doing this event. Not just because I'm going to be able to participate and have an amazing time with all of you guys, but because doing this is something our community needs. We need to be able to get people connected and get them on a level of intimacy. It's very hard to do in these types of arenas normally. So I really appreciate you doing that, and I appreciate you pushing out the message of self-empowerment, of heart-centeredness, and the importance of that, but also discernment and self-discernment. All those things are huge aspects that not all of our community celebrates, and I think those are some of the most celebrated things, or most celebratable things that we should be focused on. So thank you for all that, and thank you for just being a amazing human being and making time to come and chat tonight, brother.
Brother, thank you. I love you for that. Thank you for all of your kindness. It's so well received and so well reciprocated as well.
I
So thank you for
appreciate
that,
that.
brother.
I appreciate that, brother. Please feel free for the next few minutes share about. I do have to step away from the computer for about 2 minutes to fix one issue, but go ahead. You have the floor for as long as you'd like, brother.
All right. Thank you. Stargate Crusader Retreat. I want to let you know that it is limited to only 34 participants. We do have people that are already signed up, but there are spaces available. So I invite you to come to an experience that is linear and that should be lifting you off your feet, should be clearing away the troubles and traumas, that will open some doors for you, that will
activate you, that will, you know, energize your DNA, energize your soul, that it will touch you in so many places that you didn't know that you could energetically find, a presence for, and to be part of a community that we want to continue to grow. This is a first retreat of this style. This is something brand new that nobody has ventured to do before, to create something so immersive and expansive that is continual to bring the vibrations and the energies through the roof. We will be doing a fire ceremony in an open area that will overlook the water, that is just so breathtaking to look at the water and to see these beautiful sparkles and diamonds come from the sunlight, and then to see the amazing change that takes place as night falls and the sun sets on the water. And you get to experience all of that in such an awakened way that it adds depth to your heart and soul by that experience alone. Not even explaining of these wonderful presenters like Rob Gauthier that will be there. Tony Ghazi will be channeling the Mantis beings. Tyler Ellison will be channeling Ryoka. Nicolette Morgan, who channels many beings and known for the hybrid children. Michael Rosenbaum, who is a devout spiritual leader that will bring some really grounding, clearing, regression type work. And not to forget and mention Debbie Solaris, our Gaia specialist, our galactic historian, who is going to connect you with your star origins. We have Sierra North, who is a local presenter and an owner of a holistic center, who is bringing all of her attributes from her location and some spiritual items such as crystals and other things for you to purchase, to look at, to understand. We have Stephanie Toratorne, who will be working with sound. So we will be doing some sound healing, and sound healing that will bring us into the opening, the resonance that we need to be in. So there are many, many presenters, and I'm going to teach you how to bring you into your heart, and easy steps to learn how to drop into your heart and open up and learn to start to trust your heart. So there'll be workshops, there'll be channeling, there'll be all different types of things. And of course, we're going to do a human initiated extraterrestrial, extra dimensional contact, or better known as a CE5, but we're going to do it in a very, very special way. And also to give special mention to Daniel and Lauren from the Moment Film Company, because they're going to be filming all of this. And as a special token of appreciation for attending this, we will be giving access to all of the guest participants the ability to view all of this on video. And these guys are film producers. These are movie guys. These are the quality of and professionalism that they produce for you is going to be phenomenal. And just to give you a tip, they are channelers as well. So it's like icing on the cake all over the place. How much cake can you eat in one place? And that's what I want to make for people, because you are guests, you are listeners, you in the chat, you are the new way of being. You, as you learn, as you grow, are the ones that are demonstrating the new way to live life. to the fullest, to be embodied in manifesting anything that you want, to live in an infinite world of creation. And we are honored to have you as our guests to co-create with us. So thank you for allowing me to speak on this. And if you would like to get your all-inclusive event pass, just go to www.stargatecrusader.com. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, there's a button that says event pass. You click on that and you can get your event pass. And it has all of the information about all of the activities that will be taking place, all of the presenters, what they'll be presenting. There's an FAQ page for you to find out how you need to fly in and what airports are by and what methods of transportation. So it's very, very immersive. There's lots of information for you to digest. So please feel free to divest yourself in the website. If you need further information, there's a button to click and you can email me directly and you will be in contact with me and I will answer you back as soon as I can. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I will say from my own personal experience, when it comes to the video quality that Daniel and Lauren do, they are top tier, A-list, 100% trusted by myself, and the quality of their projects speak for themselves. But for me, when I think of spiritual videographers and producers and film creators, I think Ruben Langdon, Interview of Extra Dimensionals, and I think Daniel, James, and Lauren from their multitudes of short movies, shows, and everything that they've done. They are amazingly top quality, and all of the experience in the event I'm looking forward to, brother. The C5 is especially exciting for me. The energy of that is always fun. The last few that I've done have had really great internal experiences, and external after always manifest back. And I really look forward to just being on the ocean in a beautiful spot like that, energetically, and connecting with everyone. So thank you, brother, for sharing that. And yes, Glenn is very easy to get a hold of too. If you need to contact him, do that, and then it will be real quick to contact back. Thank you, brother, for coming on tonight. Thank you for sharing. I look forward to the event, and thank you for being here tonight, brother.
Rob, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to speak freely. And I want to thank all of your guests and all of those in the chat. Thank you for being present tonight. I love you. I send you all my love. And Rob, I send all my love to you and Kalina and your family. And I can't wait to connect with you again, brother. Thank you.
Well, thank you, brother, and I look forward to it too. And we all send our love back to you, and of course, all of you guys. I appreciate you being in the chat room. We had a very active, amazing chat, like always. Thank you all for who are participating. And the Adam Twister does in the comment section have the House of Tat meeting. They do that after every Wednesday after the show, where everyone gets together and hangs out. The link for that is in the chat. Also, yeah, we'll see you guys next week, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. We are here every Wednesday, and next Wednesday, we're going to be here, and we're going to have a guest to be named very soon, guys. I love you guys. Thank you for showing up, and we'll see you guys next week on the other side. Good night, everybody.
Love you guys.